All right. What about becoming muscled for longevity?
So I'm working on. You probably don't. I'm not all jacked up, but that's been my new goal. Particularly of late, but for like the past year, I've become more aware of it. I've spent more time focusing on it. I now have a coach who's great and coming to work with me to focus on that because I feel, I'll tell you when it really hit me. I had someone on the podcast, Dr. Mark Madsen, and I have admired his work for years. He's like the intermittent fasting king. Like I've known of his research since he was in my 20s, right? Like he's also done a lot of work on hormesis, and I followed his work for so much of my scientific career. So it was very cool to have him on the podcast and talk to him. And we were talking all about everything under the sun with respect to fasting and hormesis, and we started talking about training. And he has been a track runner forever, big endurance athlete, mountain biking, everything. And he told me, he said, the one thing that I really regret in my life is that I didn't spend more time building muscle mass because he had an accident. He had a mountain biking accident and, basically couldn't walk around and use his muscles for quite a period of time. And he said it really hit him hard. And so that was my first kind of like, oh wow, like that's like I've always focused on endurance. I never thought I really needed to focus much on muscle. I'm not a bro. Like I didn't have that incentive to like, build the muscle. And I knew it was important, but I didn't dive in deep enough and convince myself that it was as important. So that was the first sort of eye opener for me. And then I had Stuart Phillips on, who does a lot of research on resistance training. He's the one that like I helped identify that the RDA for protein intake is likely too low. And he has a really good way of explaining, muscle mass and this what's called a disability threshold, which is what I think everyone that has an older parent or grandparent has seen in action, where they get older and they experience that take where they're out for whatever a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden, of course, they can't gain their muscle back, and then it happens again, and then again, and then all of a sudden it's just downhill and they can't walk. And the trajectory just plummets, and it's just not good. So in order to sort of, not let that disability threshold be so devastating, you really have to build up your muscle mass earlier in life. Actually, it's never too late, but if you can do it earlier in life, it's better.